Hi guys, bringing you along on my sushi walk. When I say sushi walk, I'm going to go and get some sushi for lunch. I have I think my two favorite cuisines, he says, as he doesn't want to get run over, Japanese and Italian. And I will say, on the weekend, we went to this restaurant that was an Italian-Japanese fusion. And I have mixed feelings about how good fusion food can be, but had this Italian, so a pasta dish that was coated with pollock roe and had seaweed on the top, shredded dried seaweed. You know those, like the ones that they wrap sushi in, the dried seaweed sheets, shredded, and it was all bound together with a foam made from yam. And it's a sort of thing that you'd never think that you'd order, but I wanted to try something different. And the cool thing about this restaurant was that every dish was kind of unique. It wasn't spaghetti bolognese or lasagna or pan-fried salmon fillets, which we have here coming out the wazoo. It was really, really cool, and I'm hungry and I wanted sushi, so I'm on my walk. What I wanted to chat to you today about in terms of pageants, I've been doing a lot of coaching with private clients behind the scenes, really trying to work out what it is, not only helping them, but then also looking at what are the things that a lot of these people, such as yourselves, have in common. What are the things that you really want help with? And what are some of the issues in common that you deal with? And one of the things obviously is time management. We've all got a lot of things going on, and what I encourage you to do basically is take the word busy out of your vocabulary, and rather than going around boasting about how busy you are, I want you to think in terms of being productive. I do think, within reason, that when people say they're busy, they're using it as a way of humble bragging, and I encourage you to think of replacing being busy with saying, I'm not focused enough, or I'm too scattered. Because I promise you, rather than boasting about being busy, say, today I was really, really unfocused. You're not going to be boasting about it. And to help you with that, I think the easiest way to make yourself busy and overwhelmed is to either have no plan at all for your day, or what's very, very common is to have a to-do list. Now, nothing wrong with having a to-do list. It's certainly better than having no plan at all. But we can do better than that. And it's very simple. What question does a to-do list answer? Let's start there. So, a to-do list is the answer to the question of, what do I have to do today? And there's nothing wrong with that. The only issue is you get what's most urgent, what's most pressing. What tends to get forgotten is the important stuff that's not necessarily urgent. The problem is, if you keep putting off the important stuff, especially in pageantry, you end up getting closer and closer to competition date. And then there's something that just never has been urgent until suddenly it is very, very urgent, but by then it's too late. And so to give you an example, I was working with a client and she's working on her talent, and she's going to be doing piano. Now, on her to-do list is practice piano. There's nothing wrong with that. But rather than asking yourself, what do you have to do today? I want you to think of, what is the result that I want? Not what do I have to do, which also, by the way, the language of what do I have to do is not particularly exciting, because if you feel like you have to do something, you may not be particularly enthusiastic about it. But if you ask, what's the result that I want? That tends to get you a lot more motivated, because people want results. They don't want a to-do list. And so I asked my client, okay, what's the actual result we're after? And the basic result was, well, we want to win the pageant. And so the result for talent could be, we want to win best in talent. Okay, that's a much more motivating result than I got to practice piano today until my fingers bleed. The reason I bring up this example was, if you think of the result of, okay, I want to win talent, the sensible question after that is, how am I going to win talent? Now, to win talent, you think about it differently. It's not just a performance. It's certainly not like a classical music performance, which my client had previously performed a classical piece. In classical performance, I'm not going to say it's just about getting it right, but it really is a lot about that. That's at a premium. To be a classical musician, you need to really get the piece right. You're not going to be a world-class pianist or violinist if you're getting the notes wrong. Okay, that's bare minimum. But when it comes to a talent performance, it's much more about connecting with the audience than it is simply about getting it right. You could get one or two notes wrong. A lot of people won't notice, but if you connect with the audience, you've still got a very good chance of doing well. Now, there's no reason why it's mutually exclusive. You can connect with the audience and get it right. And that's obviously what we want. But when I helped my client make the distinction between, okay, I just got to practice the piano, and, well, I want to win talent when I compete at my pageant, one of the things that she needed to do was actually, okay, if I'm going to win talent, and by the way, I have X amount of time to do it in, I helped her put together the timeline. And one of the things was, well, I need to get the cut of the piece, because the talent section is very, very short and it's timed, and the piece by itself was too long. And before she can practice properly, she needs to know what she's practicing, and she can't do that until she gets the cut of the piece done. And so I encouraged her. I asked her, okay, how are you going to get the piece, how are you going to get the cut accurate? You can look at YouTube, you can look at other people's performances of it, and that got her thinking along the right direction. But the point is, her to-do list simply had practice piano. It did not have, well, before I practice, I need to get the cut right. And then also what it did not have is thinking of the talent section as a performance as a whole. So how is she going to show showmanship? And I ran her through a sequence of, let's say, thought exercises. And by the end of it, she was super excited because she could see this crystal clear idea of what the performance, how she wanted the performance to look like. And it was much more energetic, it was much more exciting, and it was much likelier to get crowd involvement than the plan she had previously. And certainly, if the only thing she had been doing from now until her pageant was to simply practice the piano, she would never have gotten the result that we're hoping anyway. She would never have gotten the result of a standing ovation or winning the talent section at her upcoming pageant. And so most of you are probably doing some version of a to-do list, and maybe you write it down. Maybe then you transfer it to your Google Calendar. It's not so much about the how you do it, it's a thought process behind it. So next time, and I encourage you, at least once a week, it's good to sit down, plan out your week, and maybe have certain really important areas of your life that you want to check in with at least once a week. When it comes specifically to pageants, think about the major components of pageants. So for a lot of you, there will be gown, there will be swim, there will be interview, there may be talent, there may be other parts. And so at the very least, you want those to be major categories, right? Interview, gown, swim. Then you're probably going to have other categories such as social media, branding, getting into shape, wardrobe, etc., etc. So you have other categories that are just as important because they're the fundamentals or the underlying parts that maybe no one sees, but you need them to succeed at the scored components. And so if you have those major categories, and at the beginning of the week, ask yourself, what is the result I want in this category this week? And so, for example, if we're talking talent, this week, the result could be, I want to get the final cut of my piece done. If it's, let's say, swim, then maybe you've either picked the swimsuit, you got in the swimsuit, or maybe you want to make massive progress in getting into tip-top shape for the competition. For gown, maybe you need to contact a gown designer. For social media, maybe you need a social media plan. Branding is a very important one. Maybe you need to get clearer on the central parts of your brand, what you stand for, maybe a mission statement or an elevator pitch, something like that. These are all questions, all things that are incredibly important for you to do your best at your next pageant. But they're almost guaranteed to never be on your to-do list. And the sooner that you get on top of these things that are important, but not necessarily urgent, the better prepared you're going to be. The more you're going to stand out. And here's the thing, you're going to get to your pageant and you're not going to be feeling frazzled. It feels good to be productive. It doesn't feel good to be busy. It certainly does not feel good to be overwhelmed. And so, again, I encourage you to take the word busy completely out of your vocabulary. And next time you're feeling busy or rushed or overwhelmed, just check, can I be more productive? Can I be more focused? Can I have a clearer idea as to what the result that I want is, rather than just simply having a to-do list? If you can do that, I think the chances of you winning your pageant go up exponentially, but also the chances of you enjoying the journey and actually enjoying the pageant also go up exponentially, because you're not just going to be running around with your to-do list and being governed by what's most urgent and what's most pressing today. So, thought exercise for you today, it's come up with all of my private clients the idea of structuring your time for maximum productivity and really having a strategic plan in place rather than just running your life from a to-do list. And remember, the question, a lot of life is about asking yourself a better question. So rather than asking yourself, what do I have to do today? Try asking yourself, what's the result that I want? Even if it's something as silly as, what do I have to do? Well, I have to go and get lunch. But what do I really want? Well, I want something that's healthy, that's tasty, it's not going to blow out the bank. Well, if I go and get sushi, I go for a walk, I get my steps in, it's a nice day out, it's warm. I've been sick for a couple of weeks, so getting out and walking is good. And I want some sushi. That's much more exciting than, I have to go and get lunch. So, food for thought. Let me know any questions. I'll speak to you next week.